The haunted market that only appears at midnight. The elders of Nkasi village spoke in hushed tones about the midnight market. They said it appeared only when the moon hung full and heavy in the sky, materializing in the clearing beyond the ancient baobab tree. Those who ventured there seeking fortune returned changed if they returned at all. I, Zuberi Adolfo, had always dismissed these tales as superstition. As the village schoolteacher, I prided myself on rationality. I believed in mathematics and literature, not spirits and curses. Until the night my sister disappeared. Imani had always been drawn to the old ways, to the stories our grandmother whispered. The midnight market calls to those who desire what they cannot have. Grandmother would say it offers everything for the right price. The morning after the full moon, Imani's bed was empty. No note, no explanation, just her absence and a strange scent lingering in her room like burnt sugar and crushed herbs. The village search parties found nothing. The police from the nearby town took statements, but held the dismissive look of men who had seen many young women choose to leave rural life behind. They didn't understand that Imani would never abandon us without a word. For 3 cycles of the moon, I investigated every whispered account of the market. Most villagers refused to speak of it directly, but a few those with eyes that seemed to look beyond the physical world shared fragments. The market appears to those who need it most, said old Jalil, fingers working wooden prayer beads. But what you need and what you want may be different things. Time moves differently there, whispered Zola, herbalist. Minutes can be hours, hours can be seconds. Everything has a price, warned Quaim, who had once been a vibrant hunter and now sat hollow-eyed. Not in money, but in memories, in years, in pieces of your soul. None had seen my sister, but Quaim mentioned seeing a young woman's ribbon blue with silver stars caught on a thorn bush near the baobab. Imani had worn such ribbons since childhood. As the next full moon approached, I prepared. I gathered salt, iron nails, and a mirror protections mentioned in the old stories. I took my grandfather's knife, blessed by both imam and priest. I told no one of my plans. When the night came, I waited until the village was silent. The moon cast silver light that transformed the familiar landscape into something otherworldly. I walked to the ancient baobab, whose massive trunk was said to house the spirits of our ancestors. At the boundary between village land and the forest, I hesitated. Every scientific principle declared what I was attempting to be impossible. Markets did not appear from nowhere. People did not vanish into another realm. Yet my sister was gone, and logic had failed to find her. I stepped beyond the baobab's shadow. The air changed, immediately becoming heavier, laden with unfamiliar scents. The night sounds fell silent. In their place came the faint sound of drums and voices, growing louder with each step. The path beneath my feet transformed into smooth, worn stone. The trees opened into a clearing that by daylight and logic should not have existed. Before me spread the midnight market. Hundreds of lanterns hung from invisible supports, casting rainbow-colored light over stalls that stretched farther than should have been possible. People or beings that resembled people moved between them. Some walked normally, others glided as if their feet never touched the ground. Some had too many limbs or eyes that reflected the lantern light like cats. The scent that had lingered in Imani's room now surrounded me, burnt sugar, crushed herbs, and underneath, something metallic and ancient. The air vibrated with voices, speaking languages I recognized, and many I didn't. I clutched my grandfather's knife and entered the market. The closest stall displayed glass bottles containing swirling mists in every color. Behind them stood a woman whose dark skin seemed to shimmer with embedded stars. "First visit?" she asked, her voice melodic yet layered, as if multiple people spoke in unison. I nodded. "Then welcome to the midnight market. Teacher," she smiled, revealing teeth too numerous and sharp to be human. What do you seek? Knowledge, years, love. The fact that she knew I was a teacher sent a chill through me. Information. I'm looking for my sister, Imani. She disappeared during the last full moon. The star-skinned woman's smile faded. A seeker of the lost. The saddest transactions. She pointed down the central pathway. You'll want the memory collector. He deals in lost things and lost people. What will he charge? I asked. Her gaze turned pitying. That depends on how badly you want your answer, teacher, and how valuable the answer is. I moved deeper into the market. All around me, transactions took place, but rarely with money. A young man traded tears for a self-turning book. An elderly woman surrendered a lock of hair for youth-restoring potion. A child offered a glowing ball of cherished memory for a bone whistle. Some sellers appeared human, others clearly were not. I passed a stall run by a figure so tall and thin it had to fold itself like origami to fit beneath its tent. Another was operated by what seemed to be a normal woman until she turned, revealing a face completely blank where features should have been. Stalls floated suspended in midair. Some tents were larger inside than their exteriors suggested. Gravity seemed optional in certain areas, with goods and patrons drifting overhead. And everywhere, watching from shadows and rooftops, were birds with too intelligent eyes and unnaturally still postures. Sentinels, I thought. I passed a stall selling time in our glasses, another offering emotions in crystal vials, and one displaying memories pressed between glass-like butterflies. At a crossroads where for market paths met, I found a vast tent of midnight blue fabric that seemed to absorb light. Above its entrance hung a sign, the memory collector dealer in lost things, lost time, lost souls. Before I could approach, a hand gripped my arm. I turned to find a young woman with eyes that swirled like fog. You seek someone, she said. My sister. She nodded. Be careful with him. The memory collector takes payment in advance, and his prices are steeper than they first appear. Have you done business with him? Her foggy eyes cleared momentarily, revealing profound sorrow. I came seeking my lover. I found answers, but they cost me every happy memory we shared. She released my arm. Sometimes not knowing is kinder. With that warning echoing, I entered the tent. Inside, the space expanded impossibly. The ceiling soared high, supported by carved posts inlaid with silver. The floor was covered with intricately patterned rugs. And everywhere were objects. Thousands upon thousands, toys, jewelry, books, clothing, instruments, weapons, tools from every era. Each bore a small tag with writing too small to read from a distance. In the center sat a man at a massive desk. His skin was deep brown, lined with age but not frail. His hair and beard were pure white, framing eyes so dark they had no pupils. He wore an impeccably tailored charcoal gray suit. He looked up as I approached. Zuberi Adolfo, the teacher who believes only what he can prove. A chill ran through me. How do you know my name? Names find their way to me, just as lost things do. He gestured to a chair. Please sit. You've come about your sister, Imani. I remained standing. Where is she? The memory collector smiled, showing perfect white teeth. Direct. I appreciate that. He placed a small object on the desk between us. A blue ribbon with silver stars. She was here, I whispered, reaching for it. He lifted a finger, stopping me. First, we discussed payment. I brought money. He waved dismissively. I deal in memories, experiences, emotions, things of true value. What do you want for information about my sister? Your most cherished memory as payment for knowledge of her fate. Your most painful memory as payment for her current location. And if I want to bring her home, that, he said softly, would depend on whether she wishes to return. and whether what remains of her can. Fear gripped me. What do you mean? What remains? Is she injured? Dead? Those are questions your payment would answer. Do we have a transaction? Teacher, I thought of what memory I might sacrifice. The day one graduated university, the night Imani and I watched shooting stars, and my most painful memory, our parents' funeral. Could I surrender even that? I need to think, I said. The memory collector nodded. The market remains until dawn, but decisions delayed are sometimes decisions made by default. I left, mind racing. Outside, the market had grown more frenetic. I wandered, seeking space to think, and found a stall displaying only mirrors, hundreds in every size and style. The vendor, a woman with bronze skin and liquid gold eyes, beckoned. You carry a heavy choice. Perhaps reflection would help. She held up a small mirror framed in dark wood. Look, she commanded. I did. The reflection showed not my face, but Imani's. She stood in a garden of night-blooming flowers, their ghostly petals luminous in darkness. She looked different. Her eyes held otherworldly knowledge, and patterns like constellations shimmered beneath her skin. But she was smiling, caressing a strange blue flower with evident delight. She found what she sought. The mirror seller said, the ability to commune with plant spirits, to learn their ancient wisdom. She paid with her tie to the ordinary world. You mean she can't come back? My voice broke. She can, but she would lose what she gained, and part of her would always remain here. The woman's golden eyes held compassion. Sometimes love means accepting choices we would not make ourselves. I need to speak with her to make sure this was truly her choice. The mirror seller nodded. That I can arrange for a price less steep than the memory collector's. 1 hour with your sister in exchange for the color blue. You will never again perceive it in your world. The color blue? I repeated, confused. All perception is memory and expectation combined. She said simply, I take the memory and the expectation follows. It seemed a small price compared to my most cherished memories. Yet to never again see the blue of the sky, of water, of Imani's favorite ribbon. I accept, I said. The mirror seller smiled. Follow the path behind my stall until you reach a pond reflecting moonlight. She will find you there. As I turned to go, she caught my wrist. Remember that the midnight market reveals truths, but always through a lens of desire. What you see may be real without being the complete reality. I followed the path, which wound away from the market's bustle into a quieter area where night-blooming flowers released their heavy perfume. The pond appeared a perfect circle of water reflecting the moon and stars. I knelt at its edge. Zuberi! I turned. Imani stood several paces away, exactly as she had appeared in the mirror. Beautiful, changed, well, with that otherworldly shimmer beneath her skin. Imani, I moved to embrace her, but she held up a hand. I'm not fully in your realm anymore. Touch between us would be painful. What happened? Why did you leave without saying goodbye? She sighed, the sound carrying notes of strange music. I came seeking knowledge of the plant magic grandmother taught me secretly. I only meant to look, to learn. But the botanist showed me wonders beyond imagination. Plants sing their wisdom. Flowers that bloom once a millennium. Seeds that remember the beginning of the world. And you couldn't leave. I finished. I could have. She corrected. But the price was my knowledge. Everything I'd learned would be taken. I couldn't bear that loss. She gestured to the patterns beneath her skin. Instead, I apprenticed myself to the botanist. These marks are the beginning of a greater transformation. Into what? Something between human and spirit. A keeper of ancient green wisdom. Her eyes held mine. I'm sorry for the pain my disappearance caused you, but I'm not sorry for my choice. I wanted to argue, but seeing her joy in this new existence, the words died in my throat. I miss you, I said instead. And I miss you. But we walk different paths now. You, the man of science. Me, the woman of spirit and ancient knowledge. Is there no way to bridge those paths? Imani considered. The market appears every full moon. Those who know how to look for it can find it. You mean I could visit you? Yes. And perhaps when my transformation is complete, I might visit briefly. She gave me a seed. Plant this at the base of the baobab. When it blooms with silver flowers, I will be able to cross over for one night. I accepted the seed, placing it in my shirt pocket. I'll plant it tomorrow. The mirror woman, she took payment? The color blue. Imani nodded. A fair price. But know this, what is taken by the market can sometimes be reclaimed. Never the same way twice. She glanced at the sky. Dawn approaches. You must go. How do I find my way back? Follow the scent of home. And Zuberi, tell grandmother I am well. Tell her I finally understand her stories. Before I could respond, she turned and walked into the garden, her form becoming translucent until she disappeared among the luminous blooms. I followed the path back through the market, now noticeably emptier, with stalls being packed away. No one called out to me. Perhaps they sensed I had made my transaction, paid my price. As the sky began to lighten, I found myself once more at the ancient baobab. I turned for one last look at the midnight market. Behind me lay only the familiar forest. The seed in my pocket felt warm against my chest. And as the first light of dawn broke, I noticed something strange. The sky, which should have been turning blue, instead appeared in shades of green and gray. My payment had been collected. I planted Imani's seed that morning at the baobab's base, marking the spot with white stones. I told our grandmother everything, and she nodded as if she had always known this would be Imani's path. The women in our family have always heard the voices of growing things, she said, some louder than others. Months have passed. I still teach science, but I no longer dismiss the elders' stories. I've learned that logic and mystery can coexist, that rational minds can accept spaces where different rules apply. The seed has sprouted into a sapling with silver-veined leaves. According to my grandmother, it will bloom at the next solstice. I have marked the date on my calendar. I will be there when the silver flowers open. When my sister steps through from her realm to mine, we will have one night to share our different wisdoms. And perhaps I will accompany her back to the midnight market, not to reclaim my lost perception of blue that price was fairly paid, but to learn that some of the most profound truths exist in the spaces between what we know and what we believe, in the haunted markets that appear only at midnight, where wonders and horrors walk side by side, and every desire has its price.